from beliefs of spirit awakening in another person, to those of a living, fearless ghost that has risen to change the usual narrative that a nation has been painfully experiencing. Africa and the world at large have and continuously observing a 1 in a million shift concerning leadership in Africa. From positioning himself as a figure of resistance against foreign influence, particularly in rejecting ties with former colonial powers like France, to his rhetoric appeals to nationalism and Pan-Africanism, the capacity for emotional intelligence and persuasion has made President Ibrahim Taore a one to look at with a hawk eye. But what has made him so special? Four decades ago, a 34-year-old army captain from Burkina Faso stood before the UN General Assembly and demanded a new world order. Being none other than Thomas Sankara, who had seized power in a coup the previous year, had embarked on a radical program of national self-reliance. While doing this, no one knew that a new baby born during that period would later emerge as a new figure doing exactly the same as Thomas Sankara, who was overthrew and simultaneously terminated by his fellow military men. Born on 14th March 1988 in Kera, Bondakui, Mohun Province, a young, talented and supportive boy of his colleagues showed early signs of leadership. After studying geology at the University of Ouagadougou, Traoré joined the army of Burkina Faso in 2009 and graduated from the Georges Namoano Military Academy. This was just the beginning of the journey of a young man whose mother never wanted him to join the army. Traore's military journey started with being sent to Morocco for anti-aircraft training before being transferred to an infantry unit in Kaya, a town in northern Burkina Faso. After showing resilience and early signs of leadership, Ibrahim Taore was promoted to lieutenant in 2014. During this time in 2012, Tuareg and other peoples in northern Mali's Azawad region started an insurgency in the north under the banner of the National Movement for the Liberation of Azawad. This prompted the rise of peacekeeping missions where on 1 July 2013, 6,000 of a future total of 12,600 UN peacekeeping troops officially took over responsibility for patrolling the country's north from France and the ECOWAS International Support Mission to Mali, AFISMA. This is where Traoré joined the United Nations Multidimensional Integrated Stabilization Mission in Mali, MINUSMA, a United Nations peacekeeping force involved in the Mali War. Officially deployed on 1 July 2013, MINUSMA was the UN's deadliest peacekeeping mission, but Ibrahim Traore emerged as one of the most strongest men from the mission. But how did he do it? In 2018, he was cited as one of the MINUSMA soldiers who showed courage during major rebel attacks in the Tombouctou region. Ibrahim Traore's immense courage continued to prevail in a way that sparked a new chapter of his life concerning army, which later has acted as fuel for his work for Burkina Faso. As jihadist insurgency continued to escalate in the Sahel, for this case, Burkina Faso, Traore returned to home soil to continue doing his magic against militant groups that were spreading at a higher speed. Traore fought at Djibo in the Otopuanu offensive of 2019 and several other counterinsurgency operations in the country's north. This resilience and bravery made him promoted to the rank of captain in 2020. Disgusted by what he had seen during operations, he despised the hierarchy in which superior officers sat in air-conditioned headquarters while their men were suffering during the fights against jihadists. After soldiers gained more trust in his vision, he gradually became the spokesman for soldiers stationed in the north who were frustrated over their government. This is where Traore started a journey that he never thought he would later rise into power. On January 24, 2022, a coup d'etat was launched in Burkina Faso led by Lieutenant Paul-Henri Damiba, in which Ibrahim Traore was part of the group that realized this event. This successful coup, hours later, saw President Roch Marc, Christian Kaboré, overthrown, and Damiba was declared as the new president of Burkina Faso. But this was just the beginning of the new chapter for Burkina Faso. Traoré being part of this group of army officers that supported the January 2022 Burkina Faso coup d'etat and brought the patriotic movement for safeguard and restoration military junta to power thought that maybe something will change this time. But guess what? Things just got worse. Many supporters of the January coup became dissatisfied with the performance of Paul-Henri Sandaogo Damiba, the junta's leader, regarding his inability to contain the militant groups. Traoré later said that he and other officers had tried to get Damiba to refocus on the rebellion, but eventually opted to remove him from power as his ambitions were diverting away from what they had set out to do. The Cobra troops, full of young and vibrant officers involving Captain Ibrahim Taore himself, grew too much frustration about how President Damiba was executing matters majorly concerning insurgency. On 30th September 2022, operation was carried out with support of the Cobra unit, which marked the end of Paul-Henri Damiba's reign. After the coup, Traoré was chosen as the new head of the Patriotic Movement for Safeguard and Restoration, and later the new president of Burkina Faso. Since assuming office, President Ibrahim Taore has embarked on an ambitious agenda aimed at improving security through immense fight against insurgency, healthcare, boosting agricultural productivity, and fostering economic growth. His leadership style and policy decisions have set Burkina Faso on a path that some observers are calling an African revolution. At home, President Ibrahim Traore has managed to stop the spread of jihadist insurgency while reviving Sankara's autarkic economic policies in what he calls a progressive popular revolution. President Ibrahim Traore's bold move of expulsion of the West changed everything concerning geopolitics. Abroad, he has become one of Africa's most prominent champions of a multipolar world and the face of the Tripartite Alliance of Sahel States, AES, an anti-Western regional bloc formed with neighboring Mali and Niger last year. But, in order to execute these plans, President Ibrahim Traore had to look for potential allies for provision of the necessary skills, equipment among others. Russian foreign influence is slowly encroaching on the Sahel's people, governments, and defensive mechanisms. The Sahel had faced a long history of instability, with countries in the region subject to colonial rule between the 1890s and 1960. Colonial investments directed to utile aspects of the region exploited areas rich in material and natural resources, resulting in land degradation and overuse. Areas deemed inutile experienced a lack of long-term economic growth and border disruption. Even after colonial independence, areas of the Sahel were marked with instability and with the persistent and growing influence of violent extremist organizations spreading, threatening to exacerbate humanitarian crises. The French effort of Operation Barkhane across Mali, Burkina Faso, Niger, and Chad in 2014, and the already seen United Nations Multidimensional Integrated Stabilization Mission in Mali, MINUSMA, in 2013, are both prime examples of failed counter-terrorism strategies by Western powers. However, both missions have since ended, with the last remnants of colonial powers attempting to stabilize the region ceasing in December of 2023 after expulsion by the three leaders. This is where Russia, a power that had slowly been leveraging failed French government counter-terrorism strategies, comes in. Shifting to Russia, China, Turkey, Iran, among other anti-Western allies has made President Ibrahim Taore and his two colleagues to put immense effort in the fight against insurgency and the broader economic growth and development of their countries.